Get that thing out of my sight! The shout cracked through the marble garage like thunder. Every wrench froze mid-turn, every mechanic stiffened. In the shadow of a Lamborghini worth more than most houses, billionaire Charles Davenport wasn't just angry, he was offended. 3 engineers had failed him, and now he was staring at the man they'd sent next, a quiet black mechanic in grease-streaked coveralls. Charles sneered. "They sent you?" He laughed, sharp and cruel. "That car costs more than your life savings. What makes you think you can fix what experts couldn't?" But what Charles didn't know was that the man he mocked had built more than engines. He'd built the very system under that hood. And before the day was over, the billionaire who thought he owned perfection would be forced to hand it over to the man he disrespected. This is Hidden Black Echoes, where the stories of struggles are told, the rise and the voice of those the world tried to silence. If stories like this remind you that true worth isn't measured in wealth or titles, but in skill, patience, and quiet strength, hit like and subscribe. Because in the next few minutes, you'll see how one man turned humiliation into history and made a billionaire eat his own pride. Get that thing out of my sight. Charles Davenport's voice exploded through the marble-floored garage, echoing between polished walls lined with luxury. The hood of a jet-black Lamborghini prototype sat open like a wound. Tools, wires, and half-drunk espressos cluttered the space where 3 professional technicians had already failed. One by one, they packed up their gear and slipped past the billionaire's glare. Charles jabbed a finger toward the car. 3 so-called experts and not one could make it start. Do I have to import the Italians themselves? From the open doorway, a calm voice answered. Maybe not. The billionaire turned. Standing there was a tall black man in coveralls streaked with grease, carrying a small toolbox and the quiet confidence of someone used to being underestimated. "I'm Marcus Reed," he said evenly. "You called for a mobile mechanic?" Charles's eyes narrowed. "They sent you?" "Yes, sir." A dry laugh escaped the older man. "This car costs more than your entire shop. What makes you think you can fix it when professionals can't?" Marcus set his toolbox on the floor, unbothered. "I'll take a look. If it's something simple, it'll be running before lunch." Charles smirked, glancing toward his daughter, Emma, who was leaning against the far wall, scrolling her phone. "Hear that, sweetheart? The help thinks he's smarter than the engineers." Emma frowned. "Dad," he waved her off. "Tell you what, mechanic. You make it run, and the car's yours." The room went still. Even the hum of the ventilation seemed to pause. Marcus looked up slowly. "You serious?" Charles grinned, certain of his joke. "Completely. I'll give you the Lamborghini if you can make it work." Marcus nodded once. "Deal." He opened the hood wider, ignoring the laughter echoing behind him. The air smelled of oil and money, 2 worlds that rarely touched. Charles folded his arms. This should be good. Marcus moved deliberately, hands steady, eyes tracing every line of the machine. He disconnected the battery, checked the ignition coil, and studied the electronic control unit. Emma watched quietly now. There was something different about the way he moved, precise, almost surgical. Charles couldn't stay silent long. "You know what that part even does? Or are you guessing?" Marcus didn't look up. "It monitors air-fuel ratio, but someone overtuned it." Charles raised an eyebrow. "You can tell that by looking?" "By listening," Marcus said. He tapped a wire, adjusted a connector, then pressed a button on his small diagnostic device. The screen flickered with a series of Italian codes. Marcus's lips moved as he read, fluent, quiet, confident. Emma blinked. You speak Italian? Marcus shrugged. Enough to understand a misfire. Charles chuckled bitterly. I'm sure you do. Minutes passed. The billionaire grew impatient. You're wasting my time, Reed. Marcus didn't answer. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small, worn notebook filled with handwritten notes and sketches. The pages were aged, the writing neat and technical. Blueprints. Emma caught sight of them, her brow furrowed. The lines and notations looked oddly familiar, like the schematics she'd once seen in the Lamborghini press kit. Marcus found what he was looking for, compared it to the circuit in front of him, and smiled faintly. There it is. He reconnected the battery, adjusted the throttle calibration, and turned the key. The engine coughed once, twice, then roared to life, deep and smooth, every piston singing in perfect sync. The sound filled the garage, powerful, flawless, undeniable. Charles froze. The smirk vanished. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Marcus closed the hood gently, wiped his hands on a rag, and said in that same quiet tone, She's fixed. Emma stared at him, astonished. How did you... Marcus smiled. Let's just say I know this model better than most. He picked up his toolbox. Now, about that deal. Charles blinked, still processing. That was a joke. Marcus met his eyes. So was your respect. He walked out, the engine purring behind him like proof. Outside, sunlight hit the chrome emblem, reflecting across the driveway, the same shine that had once blinded Charles Davenport to what real intelligence looked like. The next morning, the same Lamborghini sat outside a small, weathered garage at the edge of the city, its gleaming black paint a sharp contrast against the cracked concrete and faded signage that read, Reed Automotive Repair. Marcus stood beneath the lifted hood, sleeves rolled up, humming quietly as he fine-tuned the calibration he'd reset the day before. The early sun poured through the open bay doors, catching flecks of dust in golden light. Inside, everything was neat and functional. Shelves lined with labeled tools, a workbench covered in careful notes, blueprints, and engineering sketches. Leo, his young apprentice, walked in carrying 2 coffees. You really brought that billionaire's toy here? Marcus smiled faintly. He said it was mine if I could make it work. Leo laughed. Yeah, but he didn't mean it. Doesn't matter, Marcus replied, eyes focused on the engine. I just wanted to prove a point. Leo leaned against the bench, sipping his drink. Man, you didn't just prove it, you shut him down. I wish I'd been there. Marcus chuckled softly. Let him keep the car. I've already got what I needed. The satisfaction. A car door slammed outside. They both looked up. Through the open garage doors, Emma Davenport stepped out of a white SUV, her heels clicking across the gravel. She looked out of place among the oil stains and steel, a woman from a world where nothing was ever out of order. Mr. Reed, she called softly. Marcus wiped his hands on a rag and nodded. Miss Davenport. She hesitated, glancing around the small space. I hope you don't mind me coming by. I just had questions. Leo grinned. About how he made your dad look stupid? Marcus shot him a look. Leo. Emma smiled despite herself. He deserved it. Then, after a pause, you knew exactly what was wrong with that car before you even touched it, didn't you? Marcus shrugged. I designed that system years ago. It wasn't hard to recognize my own work. Emma's eyes widened. You designed it? Worked for the R&D division in Bologna, he said simply. before they replaced engineers with investors. She stared at him, stunned. So when my father was mocking you, I'd already fixed that problem twice before he ever bought the car, Marcus finished. Leo laughed under his breath. Man, that's poetic. Marcus ignored him, his focus steady. Your father isn't the first man to mistake quiet for ignorance. Won't be the last. Emma took a slow breath. You should have told him who you were. Marcus shook his head. Then the lesson wouldn't stick. He turned back to the engine, checking one final connection. The motor purred to life, smoother, cleaner, perfect. Emma watched, her expression softening. You really built this? Helped build it, he corrected. Every part has a story. Most people just see the shine. I see the hours, the burns, the sleepless nights behind it. She nodded slowly. He'll never admit it, you know. Marcus smiled faintly. He doesn't have to. The car already did. Outside, a gust of wind lifted a thin layer of dust from the driveway, swirling around the gleaming black machine, a symbol of quiet genius that didn't need a mansion to prove itself. Emma stood watching him work, realizing what her father couldn't. Some people didn't need power to command respect. They earned it, one turn of a wrench at a time. By noon the next day, the story had already spread. Someone from Davenport's staff had filmed the entire encounter, the taunting, the bet, the ignition roaring to life, and posted it online. Within hours, the video had gone viral. Billionaire mocked mechanic. You won't believe what happened next. The headline flooded social media. Charles Davenport sat in his office, gripping his phone, watching himself on the screen. Red-faced, sneering, humiliated. His empire had weathered bad press before, but never like this. This wasn't scandal. It was shame. He hurled the phone across the desk. Who leaked this? His PR director stammered. Sir, it's everywhere now. Even the Italians have seen it. Lamborghini called twice, asking if it's real. Charles froze. Lamborghini? Yes, sir. They said the man in the video, Marcus Reed, is, or was, one of their former engineers. The room went silent, except for the faint ticking of the clock. If you're still watching right now, you already feel that moment when arrogance meets truth, and the room goes silent. Hit like and subscribe if you've ever seen pride crumble under real skill. And keep watching, because this isn't the end of his lesson. That afternoon, a convoy of luxury cars rolled up to Reed Automotive Repair. Marcus looked up from under the lifted hood of a customer's SUV as the black sedans lined the street. Leo whistled low. Oh, here comes the cavalry. Charles stepped out first, flanked by two executives and Emma, who looked uneasy. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. The billionaire in a tailored suit and the mechanic in rolled sleeves and grease-stained gloves. Charles cleared his throat. Mr. Reed. Marcus nodded once. Mr. Davenport. Charles's tone softened, but pride still coiled beneath the words. I came to clarify a few things. That video showed exactly what happened, Marcus said quietly. No need to clarify. The executives exchanged glances. Charles forced a smile. You made me look like a fool. Marcus wiped his hands on a rag, calm as ever. I didn't make you anything, sir. You did that yourself. Emma winced. Charles's temper flickered, but he pushed it down. Lamborghini called me personally, he said. They said you were part of the original engineering team for the prototype. Is that true? Marcus reached into his toolbox and pulled out an old, scuffed ID badge. He held it up. Marcus Reed, Lead Systems Engineer, Bologna Research Division. The badge caught the light. Emma's eyes widened again, even though she already knew. The executives stared in disbelief. Charles swallowed hard. Then why are you working here? Marcus looked around the garage, then back at him. Because I'd rather build something honest than pretend to understand something I don't. The words hit like steel, wrapped in silk. He continued, his voice calm. When you mocked me, you saw a mechanic. You didn't see the man who helped design the car you bragged about owning. Emma whispered, Dad. But he didn't respond. Charles's gaze fell. For once, the arrogance drained from his face, leaving only quiet embarrassment. Marcus stepped closer, eyes steady. I don't need your apology, Mr. Davenport. I just need you to remember, respect costs less than ignorance. The silence that followed was thick and heavy, broken only by the hum of the engine still running behind them. Steady, alive, perfect. Charles finally nodded, his voice barely audible. You're right. He turned to leave, but Emma lingered, looking back at Marcus. You taught him something he's never learned before, she said softly. Marcus smiled faintly. It's never too late to learn. As the convoy pulled away, Leo looked at him, grinning. You think he'll actually give you that Lamborghini? Marcus chuckled. He already did. Leo frowned. What do you mean? Marcus nodded toward the running engine. He gave me the best proof there is, that truth runs cleaner than pride ever will. The sound of the Lamborghini's purr filled the quiet street, echoing like a victory that didn't need to be shouted. 2 days later, the Davenport estate looked more like a newsroom than a mansion. Dozens of cameras lined the driveway, reporters shouting questions as luxury cars pulled up. Charles stood at the front entrance, jaw tight, pretending not to hear. The video had reached 50 million views. Every network wanted a statement. Racist billionaire challenges mechanic, instantly regrets it. It was everywhere. His PR director whispered beside him, Sir, we have to respond. Silence looks like guilt. Charles stared out over the reporters. Then I'll respond. Inside, the massive foyer glittered with marble and chandeliers. Cameras clicked as Charles stepped up to a podium hastily set up for his press clarification. He adjusted his tie and forced a smile. I'd like to address the recent misunderstanding regarding my encounter with Mr. Marcus Reed. The crowd murmured. Charles continued. I admit my words were inappropriate. My frustration was with the car, not the man, a reporter cut in. But you did say, he raised a hand. Yes, I said things I regret. What I didn't know was that the man I mocked wasn't just a mechanic. He was one of the lead engineers who built that very car. The room quieted. Charles took a breath. And in one afternoon, he taught me more about humility than I've learned in 50 years of business. It wasn't rehearsed, it wasn't smooth, but for once it was real. After the cameras shut off, Charles stepped out to the balcony, finally alone. He leaned against the railing, watching the city lights flicker far below. Footsteps echoed behind him. Emma. She carried a folder tucked under her arm. You did better than I expected, she said softly. He gave a tired smile. I had to. I was running out of people to look down on. Emma opened the folder and handed him a document. This came from the Lamborghini board this morning. They're reopening a design position, and they want Marcus Reed to lead the division. Charles exhaled, half laughing. Good for him. She studied him for a moment. You could have stopped at good. He looked at her. I'm not that man anymore, Emma. Not after this week. She tilted her head. Then prove it. Charles frowned. How? By finishing what you started, she said, handing him a smaller envelope. Sign it. He opened it. Transfer of ownership papers. The Lamborghini's title. He looked up, startled. You're serious? She nodded. You made a promise. Charles chuckled quietly, almost to himself. That was supposed to be a joke. Emma smiled. So was his patience with you. He sighed, taking a pen. Guess it's time to keep my word. He signed the papers, the ink smooth and final. That evening, Emma drove alone to Reed Automotive. Marcus was still working, sleeves rolled up, the garage warm with the hum of engines. She stepped out of the car, holding the envelope. My father wanted you to have this, she said. Marcus looked at it, curious. She handed it over. The car's yours. Signed and transferred. He said a deal's a deal. Marcus opened the envelope, saw the title, and gave a small, surprised laugh. I didn't think he'd actually do it. Emma smiled. He didn't think you'd actually teach him something. Marcus nodded slowly. Maybe we both underestimated each other. He set the envelope on the workbench. Tell him I appreciate it. I think he knows, she said quietly. The moment lingered. Two people from different worlds, both realizing they'd just witnessed something rare. Change. 1 month later, sunlight poured through the glass atrium of the Lamborghini Global Design Center in Bologna. Reporters filled the space, cameras flashing, the hum of conversation mixing with the soft rumble of engines being tested outside. At the center of it all stood Marcus Reed, no longer in a mechanic's uniform, but in a tailored charcoal suit, his ID badge gleaming. Chief Systems Engineer, International Division. He spoke calmly from the podium, voice steady, humble as always. This design isn't just about speed, he said. It's about precision. Respect. Every part matters, even the ones no one ever sees. Applause rippled through the room. The new prototype, sleek, silver, and named the Phoenix, glowed behind him under soft white light. From the crowd, Emma watched quietly, pride flickering in her eyes. She wasn't here for headlines. She was here because she'd watched the moment that changed everything. Beside her, Charles Davenport stood in silence, a man still learning the weight of humility. He wore no expression of ego this time, only reflection. When the press conference ended, Charles stepped forward as the crowd began to clear. Marcus turned, surprised but composed. Charles extended his hand. I kept the promise, he said softly. But I needed to say it face to face. I'm sorry for how I treated you. Marcus looked at the outstretched hand, then took it firmly. You already said it, he replied, when you handed over the car. Charles smiled faintly. That wasn't apology. That was debt. This is gratitude, Marcus nodded. Then we're even. For a long second, they just stood there, two men who'd started as opposites, now meeting in mutual respect. Emma approached, her voice gentle. He's naming the car Phoenix for a reason, you know. Marcus smiled. Rising from arrogance to awareness? She laughed. Something like that. He looked toward the gleaming car, its curves reflecting the light like liquid metal. Funny thing about engines, he said. The more pressure they take, the stronger they get, if they're built right. Charles exhaled, half in awe, half in understanding. Guess people aren't much different. Marcus glanced at him. No, sir. They aren't. Later that night, the Lamborghini, now officially his, sat outside the small garage where it all began. Marcus ran his hand across the hood, the engine humming quietly beneath his palm. Leo stood nearby, grinning. Boss, you gonna drive it? Marcus smiled. Not yet. Some things are better earned than owned. He looked up at the sky, the city lights reflected in the car's glass. And for the first time, he didn't see the mansion that once mocked him or the billionaire who doubted him. He saw the man he'd always been, patient, precise, and finally seen. He didn't win the car that day. He won something worth more, respect that no money could ever buy. If stories like this remind you that dignity has nothing to do with titles, uniforms, or class, hit like and subscribe, so you never miss the next story where quiet strength turns judgment into regret and respect finds its way home.